And we are live. Happy Hump Day, everybody. Wednesday, 9 a.m. Jonathan Heron here at Life Church's Saginaw location. One of my favorite places to be, drinking my favorite beverage of choice, coffee. Coffee. There are so many reasons for you to throw in the towel, to throw your hands in the air and not wave them like you just don't care, but to say, I give up. Imagine the season we're in right now. We just got done with lockdowns and masking up. We breathed in freedom for the first time this summer, and now it feels like we're heading back down the pathway of masking up like Darth Vader, locking down like a turtle in a shell. Some of us have had enough. You've had it up to here with coronavirus. If we drill down deeper, many of us have had it up to here with a certain challenge in leadership. There is that Dwight Schrute in the workplace that is driving you crazy, and you've had it up to here. You're ready to write your epic rant, to type that nasty quitting letter that'll show them and hit send. My heart today, my goal is to tell you, don't give up. What if you are this close to your breakthrough? Because the greatest opposition always comes before your greatest breakthrough. You may have had it up to here, but you're so close to moving past this valley and back up onto the mountaintop. In the book of Hebrews, chapter 12, verse 23, it says this about Moses, the great leader Moses. Moses was a leader who did not give up. Hebrews 12:23, by faith, Moses, when he was born, was hidden for 3 months by his parents because they saw that the child was not ordinary. You and I are not ordinary. If you've been called to leadership, you've been given a noble and worthy calling to sink your teeth into. You are not ordinary. You are extraordinary. And God will allow you to go through the toughest seasons so that you might see the extraordinary open up before your eyes. Moses had every opportunity to give in and give up. The first 40 years of Moses' life, he had it good. He had the cushy kingdom seat in the Pharaoh's palace. He'd say, bring me some grapes, bring me a Diet Coke, and there it was. He barely had to lift a finger in the Pharaoh's court to get his way. It's like everything he touched was gold, until one day he touched an Egyptian soldier, killing the man. Suddenly, Moses ran away from his calling. He left the position of power in Egypt and headed for the wastelands. He thought his life was over. Moses believed the lie that God can't use messy people with mistakes in their past. And so for the second 40 years of his life, Moses toiled in the hot, dry, lonely wastelands of the deserts in the Middle East. His best friend was a sheep. He discovered why Simon and Garfunkel wrote some of the greatest hits, because he was living under a bridge over troubled waters. And yet God wasn't through with Moses. Just as I believe there is more to your story. I get it. You've experienced some setbacks. But I believe to my core that every setback is really a setup for your comeback. What would happen if you believed these 3 words this morning? Don't give up. Keep pressing forward, keep pressing on, because you are not ordinary. Like it says in Hebrews 12:23, you are not ordinary. There's a greater destiny. So what if your first 40 years ended up with murder on your rap sheet? So what if the second 40 years of your journey were all about loneliness, isolation, and depression? You're a modern day Moses. If your small business has experienced setbacks, if you have looked at teaching no longer as a calling, but a weighty, toilsome toll. If you see your ministry or your church as having its best days in the past, wake up. Let's jumpstart something new in you. Don't give up. Can you imagine if Moses had given up? If he had kicked back, looked through his memory book, sat on his oversized rocking chair from Cracker Barrel and said, everything that was great about my life is in the past, the glory days. Moses would have missed out on his greatest moments of leadership. He would have short-circuited a movement of God in his life. He would have handed his legacy off to someone else. See, God's plans will never be thwarted. You can either cooperate and partner with God, or God will pass over you and use someone else as an empty vessel to accomplish his will. The fun is found when you say yes. That's one of the foundational rules of comedy. That's why we call this fearless leadership coaching, to jumpstart your life. Because comedians have to be fearless. They encounter rejection, discouragement, stiff competition every single day. But the biggest culprit they have to defeat on a daily basis in comedy is the critic in their own head. When you start to believe the lies whispered in your mind that you don't deserve to be a leader, that your best days are behind you, in the business world we call that imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome is when you start to believe the lie that I don't really know what I'm doing. Who am I to be leading this organization? Maybe I should cash out and just give up. Squash away that imposter syndrome. Do whatever it takes to steamroll over the lies with the calling and the passion and the urgency you had when you began. Because it says in Philippians chapter 1 that he who began a good work in you will bring it to completion. Remember, you're not ordinary. You're extraordinary. And extraordinary people are raised up to accomplish extraordinary goals, like Moses. His first 40 years, he grew up in the riches of Pharaoh's palace. His second 40 years, he was in rags, isolated in the wilderness. And then the burning bush. Isn't it funny that in our darkest moments, a light will appear? A guiding light that says, whatever's in the past, understand that the best is yet to come. You're not ordinary. You've been called to step into the extraordinary. Don't give up. I believe in you. We need you to press forward. We need you to jumpstart your business or your relationships or your ministry. The time is now. Moses returns to Egypt, the very place where he murdered a man 40 years earlier. He was probably racked with shame and guilt. He kept rewinding the highlights of his lowest moments when he strangled, killed, clubbed a man to death 40 years earlier. He was defining himself by his past. See, the enemy seeks to label you by your mistakes, but God always names you after his Son. Your greatest potential often lies through the pathway of your greatest pain. Moses had to return to the scene of the murder to face the ghosts of the past so that he could prevail and press forward into the extraordinary. There's a technique that's often used by Christian counselors and psychologists. Whatever is the scene of your deepest regret, your deepest shame, your deepest guilt, often that's a scene that you need to revisit to fully flesh out unresolved feelings that are holding you back. For Moses, that meant at age 80, returning to the scene of the crime, Egypt. And in his empty, humble, frail state, leadership arose. Fearless leadership. God cannot use a man who is full of himself. But when a man empties himself, God can use a man full of him. My friends in the comedy world have to seize every moment, every opportunity, every audition fearlessly. Their next paycheck, their credibility, it's all on the line every time they step behind a microphone. One off night, one lazy comedy set can set them back 10 years thanks to social media and YouTube. They can't take any opportunity for granted. So in the comedy world, comedians are conditioned to be fearless, to be unapologetic about what they want, and able to rally the team and the resources to make it happen. The reason that you are in your position is because you are not ordinary. You have been called to higher purposes, extraordinary deeds done in God's power. It's time for you to jumpstart your life, your leadership, and your legacy to rise up and be the fearless leader that you were called to be. That's the story of Moses. His final 40 years are spent writing the greatest chapters of his life. You may have screwed up yesterday, but God's not done with you yet. If you're still alive, God ain't done. And if you feel like something has died, great! Because sometimes something has to die before there can be a resurrection. It could be the death of a business, the death of a dream, the death of a relationship. There is always a purpose for the pain. Very often God uses pain to shape and mold our character to become more like the likeness of his Son, Romans 8:29 says. And so you can embrace hardship. You can strive forward through the wilderness knowing there's an oasis on the other side. There's a reason to rally. Don't give up. Hebrews chapter 12, verse 23 says that Moses, at the very beginning of his journey, when he was an infant, he was no ordinary child. The role that you play in your organization is not by chance. I believe that you were called, you were born, you were destined to assume the mantle of influence that you have. Your influence may be a small group of Instagram followers. That's still influence. Your influence may be over a group of school children. You're still shaping lives. Your influence may be as a business person or a small business owner. You're the backbone of the American dream. Your influence may be as a ministry leader. Don't throw in the towel. The best is yet to come. And though Moses was born into slavery, humble, harsh conditions, he pressed forward. He didn't give up. He didn't throw in the towel. He used that towel to wipe his brow and to move forward by faith, even when it didn't make sense. And at the end, he saw the promised land. The people that you shepherd, the people that look to you for influence, the people that trust you as a leader, want to see the goal. They want to see the end picture. They want to see the promised land. Your job as the fearless leader is to unapologetically say, here's where we're going. And like Paul in 1 Corinthians 11:1, follow me as I follow Christ. The journey of trusting and following the Carpenter King as a leader is no ordinary path. It's extraordinary. And you have been positioned to step into greatness, to make history come alive. All it takes is one light ignited in the darkness. And maybe this moment has been your wake-up call. Perhaps this video was shared with you and you're going, oh wow, you're right. I gotta wake up. I can't phone it in. I gotta turn off cruise control. It is time to live out what I say I believe. To walk forward by faith, not by sight. To move forward even when it doesn't make sense. When I was in Africa a number of years ago, my wife and I went on a true African safari. Not one of those safe, touristy kind of things. No, we were in South Central Africa. We woke up before the sun rose to head out into the African bush and see the wild animals. The only animal that required two positioned bodyguards as we drove by in our open air Jeep was the rhinoceros. Our African tour guide, his name was, I'm kidding, that wasn't his name. His name was Fred. Fred, the African tour guide, explained to us that the wild African rhino requires two armed bodyguards as we drive by because they are a powerful beast. He explained that rhinos have these large horns made out of thick cells that are similar to our fingernails, but layered upon each other many, many times. When they have a target and they charge full speed toward the target, they will crash and destroy their goal. There is no stopping a charging rhino. All you can do is try to get out of the way, but they will crash into their goal. And then our African tour guide leaned over and said, but here's the funny thing about rhinos. Though they are an unstoppable force, they can't see where they're going. All rhinos are nearsighted. If you're nearsighted like I am, then naturally you can see things in focus when it's close up. But when the goal, the target is farther away, it's fuzzy. You cannot clearly see all the steps you're taking to achieve your destination. And so rhinos move forward by faith, not by sight. They are an unstoppable force that always reach their target, even though they don't have clarity on every step of the journey. Do you know what a group of rhinos united together running full speed toward a target is called? A crash. A crash of rhinos. That's the essence of fearless leadership. You are called to rally your team and resources, to move forward by faith, not by sight, and to crash. Sometimes it involves stumbles and hiccups, and that's where you have to believe these 3 words: don't give up. Press forward. Embrace the extraordinary journey ahead of you. And do whatever it takes to stay inspired with hope. Show me a leader that is full of hope, and I will show you an unstoppable force for good. One way that I stay filled with hope, hopeful, is by listening to podcasts, reading books from authors that challenge my thinking. And I want to be around people who are relentlessly positive and who are making a difference for time and eternity. Some resources to throw to you and your team. Number 1, you can get the free Fearless Leadership Podcast, available on all podcast platforms. This week's episode 60 of the Fearless Leadership Podcast, is all about the new rules of leadership. You can get Fearless Leadership Podcast on Apple, Stitcher, Spotify, or on my YouTube channel. Just search Jonathan Heron. If you want to drill down deeper with the team, grab my bestseller, Holy Shift. Using principles of comedy to laugh your mass off and reach more people far from God. These principles apply to small business owners, to teachers, to business people, to ministry leaders. Holy Shift, another great resource. And of course, patreon.com. I'd love to connect with you. Patreon.com/Jonathan Heron. I hope that this has inspired you, that our time together live has helped to jumpstart something in your heart. Let me know in the comments below what stood out to you. Text this video to 2 coworkers, to 2 friends to encourage them. And next Wednesday, I might be here live at 9 a.m. I might not. I'm going to be on vacation down in Disney World. And if there's a way for me to tie in the magic of Disney with a live shot Wednesday at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, you better believe I'll do it. But if not next Wednesday, we'll be back in 2 weeks. Wednesdays, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, appointment viewing for you and your team. This is Fearless Leadership Coaching to jumpstart your life, your leadership, your legacy. I'm Jonathan Heron. Thanks so much for your time. Enjoy your burrito.